Marvin Mims, Special Teams Player of the Week in the AFC. Marvin Mims is special. We're going to break down Marvin Mims. We're going to break down Russell Wilson.
Yep.
Is he special enough to make the Pro Bowl? I don't think it's that crazy to say, but we are joining you on the DNVR Broncos podcast. Todd Davis, Henry Chisholm, Zach Stevens rolling with you today. Marvin Mims. He deserves this Special Teams Player of the Week award.
Hands down, he's putting the team in the best position to win. Multiple returns of 20-plus yards. I know he leads the league in kickoff returns and punt returns. He's playing really, really good football. He's fresh because he's not playing any offense, but that's what leads him to Special Teams Player of the Week.
Which honestly makes it even that much more frustrating because when he has the ball in his hands, I mean, his returns this past week, they looked like he was going at like 80%.
Yep.
It's just because, like, that's how natural of a returner is. That's how natural he is with the ball in his hands. And, I mean, at one point, when he's, like, crossing the field, I'm like, speed up, speed up.
Yeah.
And he's just that fast, where it just looks like he's not even going full speed.
I've got a question for you. So he was what, like the 67th pick?
Okay.
If he just is the best returner in the NFL for the next 10 years, never does anything as a receiver, is that a good use? Like, is that a good value for like the 67th pick, just to have the best returner in the league for a decade?
Outside of like pulling my hair out every week, wondering why they're not using him on offense, yeah, it would be if it really is a decade.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy. Like, and it's tough to like think about, but I would give a late second-round pick to have the best returner in the NFL for a decade.
Well, and that's kind of like the conversation that you have about like kickers and punters. It's like, well, you don't have to draft them because you can find most of them undrafted. But it's like, okay, if you can spend a fourth-round pick instead of getting a potential starter on offense or defense, or like a good backup, or someone that you're going to cut the second year, if you could spend an early day three pick on a punter or kicker, but you know they're going to be the guy for the next decade, it's like, man, it probably stinks right then, but 10 years down the line, you're going to be like, hell yeah, that was a great pick.
The tough part
Devin
is
Hester was the 57th pick in his draft.
And what did he do on offense?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was the best returner really in NFL history.
Yes, and was he worth that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Probably will be one day.
the tough part about drafting kickers and punters is that half of them wind up busting.
Right.
And that's where, if you spend a fourth rounder on somebody who just stinks at punting, that's where it stings.
Or like the Bucks when they used the second round pick on, was it Aguayo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then did they cut him that year?
I think they did.
I mean, it was that bad.
Meanwhile,
that
like,
brutal.
Justin Tucker's just like undrafted.
And the thing with, exactly. And the thing with punters is it's not like you can dangle it in front of the fan base like, oh, well, he's also going to do some things on offense.
No,
like you could with
exactly.
Marvin Mims. Like,
exactly.
There's still that option that maybe he does something on offense. But Henry, did Sean Payton get you this morning? Did you have a conversation with him and he's like, hey, try to spin this in a good way? Because you're really spinning it in a good way right now.
I, despite popular belief, don't have a lot of just little side talks with Sean in the mornings. No, I mean, if Marvin Mims is just this guy as a returner for the rest of his career, good pick. And if he turns out to be the receiver that he's shown at points that he can be, then all of a sudden it's a steal. But he's already, to me, like, lived up to the draft value. Or at least if he continues what he's doing. He's shown he can.
It's tough because he's that good. I think anytime you're on the field a lot, like, I think injuries.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have him healthy because it would suck to see him go down, knock on wood, on like a pass play, and we're like, dang, now we don't have the best kick and punt return in the league for the
Meanwhile,
rest of the
he's
year.
been like, he's shown some things, but in terms of like his time on the field, like an average receiver, in terms of like return on investment in terms of snaps. Like, you always have that conversation with, do you want Pat Surtain returning punts? Like, he might get hurt. It's not worth it. You don't want to lose him on defense. What if with Marvin, we're saying, like, I don't know if we want him on the field on offense because we can't lose him on special teams.
Get out of here.
I don't know. I mean, he's not far off. Like, he's by far the best returner in the NFL this year, and that I mean, it can lead to some crazy situations. I mean, just like Devin Hester, like all the conversations people had about Devin Hester, they were insane. It's like, how do we try to give him the ball? Or like, there was like a debate for a couple of years, like, what position does he even play? Is he a cornerback? Is he a receiver? Like, where should we be using him? And obviously, that sort of stuff doesn't happen with Marvin, but you just get put in weird situations when you have great returners.
Get out of here. I got to stop this nonsense, you guys. He's not like a Deontay Spencer in the way where, like, he can be a dynamic returner, but you don't really see it on offense. But you're like, well, what if? No, we've seen it on offense. Through the first 4 weeks of the season, he led the NFL in receiving yards, in yards per catch, I should say, at 24. He still averages 24, but he no longer leads the league because he's just had so few opportunities that he doesn't even get considered in that category at all. The Broncos tried to give him the ball twice this past week. They tried to do it on that screen that got broken up, and then on these jet reverses with him, and they got to stop doing that because it just doesn't work. Teams are sniffing it out. The Broncos aren't blocking it well. I don't know what it is. It's so obvious or something. They did try one other play where Marvin, it looked like he was open downfield and Russ just didn't see him, or he was pressured. I don't remember the exact situation, but you got to keep working these plays in because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. And honestly, though, I mean, props to him, and he deserves so much credit because the defense and all the turnovers has helped the offense a ton. And then Marvin Mims in this return game, both in punt return, number 1 in the league, kick return, number 1 in the league, is huge for this offense, not having to do so much in order to win games.
Yeah, and I think that's why I want him to stay right where he is. And I just think if you look at our offense, I think the first couple weeks of the season, we were trying to figure out like what our game plan was. What are we as a team? How are we going to attack defenses? And we found out that it has nothing to do with deep shots. Like, deep shots is not our go-to.
No.
It's these short intermediate routes, 20, 30 yards is probably the longest throw we'll make, and everything else is run game. So I think that's why he's not being utilized, because that's not his bread and butter. He's the 40-yard down the field guy. He's the guy making big plays. And as our offense is right now, that's not the mindset of Sean Payton.
So you're not even kidding anymore. You're okay with him just being really the primary punt returner, kick returner, and then don't need much more from him on offense?
Loving it.
Oh,
I mean, they are.
Did you guys get this to like gang up on me and drive me crazy today?
No, not at all. But I mean,
That was a really high pitched voice there, Hank.
I'm sorry about that.
Lie.
No, that does happen to me when I lie. That is true. Actually,
I should rethink my position because me and Henry are on the same page.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I should rethink how I'm thinking about this.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Making sure I'm not going crazy.
At least I didn't say the Bills are going to win that game. But but if you look at it, though, yards per route run. So that's like, obviously there's more that goes into it, but that's basically like you put the guy on the field. What does he provide? Like, you assume that if he's the open receiver, he gets the ball, and those are assumptions you have to make that the quarterback isn't missing it. But he's still at 2.18 yards per route run, which is the best of any Bronco. So, like, they're still getting the return on the investment by putting him on the field, and it's because you get those big plays. Like, you don't need him to get consistent catches. You just need him to, every few weeks, and it's worked out differently for him because he's had a bunch at the beginning, so that the defense has to keep him honest. Like, you're forcing somebody to sit over the top because they're scared of Marvin, because you still are getting that return on investment just by putting him on the field. And what you'd like to see from Marvin is, okay, develop the game a little bit, start getting the slants going, get the quick outs going, get some of that route running stuff. But for a rookie, he's found his niche. And his niche is get on the field, get your couple of deep balls, honestly, like, get 5, 6, 7 a season, and that'll force the defense to sit back. It'll open up the running game. It'll open up the short passes. And, like, he's helped the offense more than you'd think for somebody who has the numbers that he does. It was also interesting. This week, he ran 28 routes, which was by far the most in the season. Before that, the most was 14. Like, he doubled up the most he's out there. So they're getting him out there. But when teams just say, we want to take Marvin Mims away, teams can take Marvin Mims away because he just hasn't quite rounded out his game. But by taking him away, it means that you're at least sitting one guy really deep, and you're probably sitting two. Like, you've got two guys on that side of the field, which opens everything up.
I think we've already seen teams change the way they approach him, though, because you have to eventually hit that or at least try to throw it. It's not like Russ even threw the deep ball to him this week to try to keep teams honest, let alone complete one. At some point, you've got to show that he really is a threat because you're willing to take that.
I disagree, though, because like you can't throw it to him if he's covered. And they're covering him downfield. Like, they've got somebody there downfield, so you can't throw that to him. And because they've got somebody downfield, you don't, like, that's the point. Like, at this point, he's a decoy, you know? And as soon as he can start building out those counters, that won't be the case. But he's not going to be treated like he was those first 4 weeks of the season when they're like, okay, we'll line somebody up. Or, like, quarters, we'll have somebody covering deep. That corner's going to be dropping back with you. But he's starting 5-7 yards after the line of scrimmage. That guy's sitting back now. Like, that's just the case. And I think that it'd be nice for Marvin to get a whole bunch of numbers, but he has been productive. Like, he's helped them out by just taking I guess, forcing them to put a lid on the field, opening up that running game, opening up those short passes a bit.
I mean, yeah, I see them usually have him as a decoy until they fall asleep. You know, like the one time they get press coverage, I think they're going to him with the ball. So I think it's a blend of what both you guys are saying. You guys are both right, man. I'm just here to be a peacemaker.
There we go. I like that.
There was one where he got loose deep too. I can't remember. I think Russ went to like the sideline. There was like some pressure. There was one where he had him, and you do have to make sure you take advantage of that because I mean that's a free touchdown.
And
but
that's
it's just once or twice a game.
And exactly. And so hopefully we see that. Okay, now that we're disagreeing on something, let's disagree on something else here. A little spicy, but midway through the season, it's not crazy, at least in my opinion, to think that Russell Wilson should be in the Pro Bowl conversation. Henry, you disagree?
Conversation's fine.
Okay.
We can have the conversation.
Well, how long does the conversation extend? Because how many Pro Bowl quarterbacks make? Is it 3? I think.
Yeah, 3, but you usually expect it to be like the top 5.
And let's not do that.
I feel like you have to though.
No, because
that's
I
just
don't
the way
want
Pro
to
Bowls work.
Yeah, but I don't think we should focus on like alternate when you're building this thing out. When you're just looking at the first Pro Bowl roster, at least that's kind of the way I want to do it.
Okay.
Because I mean, sometimes you can get into like the 7th alternate, and I love Trevor Siemian, and I mean that, Todd. But I mean, he even got a Pro Bowl alternate in 2016. I don't want to be going down the line where we're including Russ. Like, well, maybe he's like the 9th best quarterback in the AFC.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's stupid. Let's just try to take it in like a traditional first ballot Pro Bowl sort of guy. So top 3, and we're only talking about the AFC.
Yep.
So it's not just like the top 10%. Is Russ in that conversation?
I mean, I do think that he has a good chance of actually going to the Pro Bowl. But if we're just talking, will he be on the first ballot? Like the first one's voted in? I don't think so. Like there's just too much working against him. Like you can look at the touchdowns and the interceptions, and that's
the ratio is great. He has a great ratio.
Yes, the ratio
phenomenal.
Great. And that's nice to have going for you, but there's just too much else at play. I mean, he's 23rd in the NFL in passing yards. That's not good. Obviously, like the Broncos' passing offense, just total volume production. You need more out of it at this point. You look at like the quarterback rating. Yeah, like 104, it's up there. People like QBR now, and as much as like I personally don't, that's gonna weigh him down. And when it comes down to it, it's a fan vote. What are NFL fans voting for? Like it's if it comes down to like, should we vote for Joe Burrow, who's had a disappointing season, or Russell Wilson, who's had a good season, but it's Russell Wilson? Like people are just gonna vote for Burrow.
Yeah, I look at the numbers of it all. I think he's bouncing back and having a much better season, so he's going to get fan love. His ratio is phenomenal: 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I just don't see the passing yards being there. I think that's the big thing for me. He hasn't had over 200 yards in the last 6 games, and then he's only done it 3 times this season. Like, he's not lighting up the stat sheet in the other regards besides touchdowns. I think touchdowns come from the defense and special teams putting him in great position to score touchdowns. But at the end of the day, I just think he's not putting up enough yards to really be a Pro Bowler.
Yep. But that's not his fault at all, because it's not like he's not putting up the yards because he's completing 50% of his passes and he's getting the opportunities to throw for 300 yards a game, and he's just fumbling the ball. No, he's not doing that at all. He has in the AFC, he He has the 11th most passing yards per game, which is in the bottom third. I'm not trying to make that a rosy
So that's not
stat
Pro
right
Bowl?
there. That's not Pro Bowl.
We're gonna tally this up. Okay, so this is gonna be not Pro Bowl, and this is gonna be Pro Bowl. Okay.
Let me give you another stat to favor the not Pro Bowl.
Okay.
In the AFC, his QBR is 52.5, which has risen in the past couple of weeks. That's 10th. So that is like
Another not Pro Bowl.
bottom third as well, or I guess almost the bottom third as well. Every other stat, I'm not going to cherry pick, is in the top 5 in the AFC. Completion percentage, 67.9%, which has risen recently. You're not going to put one up for that?
Well, Pro Bowl's top 3, so I guess it has to go not
okay.
Pro
Yeah,
Bowl.
exactly.
Okay, that's how we're going to do this. Okay. Passing touchdowns, third in the NFL.
There you go.
And
Pro
he's
Bowl.
third in the AFC
Love it.
as well. Touchdown percentage, and some of these you don't have to put in if you don't want to. First,
There we go.
percent of passes thrown there, touchdowns. He's first in the entire NFL and also the AFC. In terms of interception percentage, 1.5%. That's second best in the AFC.
Like it.
Passer rating, 104, second best in the AFC. Sacks, second most in the AFC.
Not Pro Bowl.
Not Pro Bowl, that's correct. And then how about this? Fourth quarter comebacks, he's tied for the most in the AFC. And then game-winning drives, he's tied for most in the AFC as well. And then interceptions, I've already thrown you interception percentage, but interceptions, he has the second fewest in the entire NFL and in the AFC, only to CJ Stroud. You mentioned that touchdown to interception ratio, 18-4. That's the second best in the entire NFL, only to CJ Stroud as well. And to me, I mean, the stats, Russell Wilson is doing everything that's asked of him. Now, what's kind of crazy is I give so much credit to Sean Payton for rising him to this level. But then also, I kind of blame Sean Payton for, if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl, for keeping him out of it. Now, maybe if Sean were to try to make him a Pro Bowl quarterback and get those numbers, exactly,
Yeah.
Russ comes down a little bit. So I'm not actually blaming Sean here, but it is funny. You give Sean a lot of credit, but then if he doesn't make the Pro Bowl, you kind of say, you were the guy that held him back. Just kind of like the conversation was in Seattle when he got traded here. Russ said, look at these freaking numbers I'm putting up. I deserve more responsibility. Give me more. And Pete said, no, there's a reason we're limiting you here.
He understood.
And now Nathaniel Hackett did the opposite. He said, this is all about Russ. You do whatever you want. And we saw what happened.
Yep.
The numbers completely fell off. Maybe that was just one bad year, or we're seeing a Hall of Fame coach in Pete Carroll say, this is what's best for you. And now we're seeing another Hall of Fame coach in Sean Payton saying, this is what's best for you. But I don't think it's crazy. I think so many of these stats, and again, fair or not, stats are what get you MVPs. Stats are what get you Pro Bowls. Stats are what get you these votes. There's enough stats to say absolutely Russell Wilson is definitely in the conversation, which is like a top 5, if not a true Pro Bowl quarterback this year.
But I don't even know what the stats mean definitely top 5. Because you look and like CJ Stroud's in front of him. Tua is in front of him. Mahomes is in front of him. Lamar's in front of him. Like, I think Herbert's probably pretty clearly in front of him. You get to like Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Josh Allen with Russ. Like, maybe you have Russ number 1 of those 4 and he's like the 6th right now. But if we're talking getting to top 3, at the very least, he has to surpass 3 of CJ Stroud, Tua, Mahomes, Lamar, and Justin Herbert. That's tough to do in half a season.
It is. But he gets to play Justin Herbert twice.
It's true.
And he gets to play CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
So if he can put on a better performance in those games, I think that'll kind of bump him up.
I mean, what's Herbert done better than Russ? Why are you saying that he instantly deserves this? Because stat-wise, he does have QBR on him. 17 points higher QBR. Stat-wise, nothing else on Russ outside of passing yards.
Yeah, but I mean, there's the difference between 200 passing yards a game and 261 passing yards a game. That is massive. Like, I mean, that's not just like a little bump. That's a 20. That's like a 30% increase.
Yeah, and we're talking about a 30% increase for Herbert in the attempts as well. So again, Sean's holding them back, probably rightfully so. But I mean, it's not like Justin Herbert's doing this on the same number of attempts.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but there's also something to be said. I mean, like, you could look around the NBA, for example, and say, Devin Booker has however many more points than, KCP, but he's also taking as many more shots. Like there's something about like being the guy who's carrying your team, like being the number one option and having all this. Like it's pretty clear the Broncos are kind of scheming around Russell Wilson, saying like, okay, we found this nice little niche, all these checkdowns, like it's a timing offense. We've gotten Marvin Mims out there, take the top off, just kind of work underneath. Whereas for the Chargers, the offense is Justin Herbert, go do things for us. Like there's volume is a plus. Like it's valuable to be a high volume guy.
Yeah, I think that might be more for the MVP conversation. And I want to throw that your way to see if there's any chance Russ can get in that conversation at some point, if he is maybe in the Pro Bowl conversation right now. But first, got to tell you about our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing, where if you're going against Justin Herbert, you want to put a roof on him to maintain him. And our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing are going to do that for your home, your business. Check out redhawkroofing.com. Tell them the DNVR sent you, where they have quality materials, decades of experience, quick response time. They've got Colorado's best estimators and contractors. They have free, no-obligation roof and property inspection, free in-depth photo reports for all your inspections, and winter is coming. You don't want to wait for this when they're going to get super busy, so check them out now. And they're huge DNVR supporters, so you can trust them. So check them out, redhawkroofing.com. Tell them DNVR sent you.
And check out our friends over at Hero Bread, Hero Bread. They have some phenomenal breads. They have sliced breads, buns, tortillas, and they are all pretty good for you. I mean, they have 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. They have the fewest calorie among all leading national brands. The great thing about Hero Bread is it's good for you whether you're coming out for workout, whether you want to watch your figure, whether you just want to eat healthy. Hero Bread is here for you, and they're here to help. You can check them out at hero.co. And if you use the code DNVR, you get 10% off your first purchase, so go check them out now.
So I think if Russ wants to get in the MVP conversation, he's got to do a lot of things that, Henry, you're talking about.
Yeah.
He has to be the offense. He can't just be a game manager. And the best quarterbacks, they say, are game managers too. But then there's ones that can absolutely take over games.
For sure.
And we haven't seen Russ do that yet. And he would have to turn into that for some of the games. Now, it's probably not in the best interest in the Broncos. So he's probably not going to do that. Or if he wants to become maybe not even MVP, but like a sure make into the Pro Bowl, he's probably got to do that, raise those yards. But then the other thing we haven't talked about, because it maybe isn't the most important thing for a Pro Bowl, the winning's got to continue. And you can't be a losing quarterback and not be throwing the ball much and be like a sure guy that's going to make the Pro Bowl or even in the MVP conversation at all.
Yeah.
So if they finish the season 8-9, no chance, especially at the quarterback position. But Broncos in 2 weeks going up against two backup quarterbacks could easily be 6-5, and they could easily continue this streak. And if Russell Wilson, with a couple weeks left in the season, the Broncos are on like a 7-8 game win streak, and they finish the season on like a 9-2 run, that's someone that you can look at and be like, damn, that's a Pro Bowler, or damn, this guy should be in the conversation for MVP when he's got on pace for 34 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
Yeah, I think he has to continue to do what he's been doing the last 2 games. I think up into the last 2 games, he wasn't doing enough to help the Broncos succeed. So I wouldn't have him in the MVP race because even though he had, at the time, KC, he had 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, it wasn't enough. He wasn't getting them over the hump. So what he's doing now is putting up a lot of touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So he has to continue to make plays that help the Broncos win. And regardless of what his ratio is, he has to put the Broncos in the best position to win games. I think that's how he gets recognition to possibly be the MVP.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any chance he's even close to the MVP conversation. I mean, he has 3 200-yard passing games in 9 games.
CJ Stroud may be Rookie of the Year and MVP.
Exactly. Like there's he's not close to the bubble. I mean, he's not even, honestly, I don't think close to being MVP of the Broncos. Like I look at Justin Simmons, I look at Pat Surtain, I think you look at Quinn Miners. I think you look at a bunch of guys before you even say Russell Wilson is the MVP.
Look at a guard.
I can't give it to him. But I mean, I can't give it to a lineman.
He could be in the conversation for Pro Bowl, sure.
But you think the difference between Russell Wilson and Jarrett Stidham so far this season is bigger than the difference between Quinn Miners and say, Quinn Bailey in terms of winning.
Yes.
Really, I can't get there.
1,000,000%.
But I just don't think that Russ is, like, he's just not close. Like, he's not close, and I don't see, I mean, unless, like, he could go out there and throw for 400 yards the next 5 weeks, and then he's in the conversation. But even that just kind of starts to catch him up a bit.
Here's the thing, though, is you say not close.
Yeah.
When you're saying not close, that's the crazy thing about this year. If there's ever going to be a non-quarterback to win this award, it's probably this year, because there's no quarterbacks that are out there that are on pace for 50 touchdowns. In fact, there's not even a quarterback that's on pace for 40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
This is a very different year in the NFL where scoring's down and it's impacting quarterbacks, quarterback stats big time. Russell Wilson, more passing touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes, more passing touchdowns than Justin Herbert, more passing touchdowns than every single quarterback in the entire NFL except for Tua and Josh, and he's only 1 touchdown behind those guys. So it's not like any quarterback is running away with this where it's easily he's that guy. So in terms of closeness, it's not that far. And even though people have been bashing on Russ and bashing on Russ and bashing on him, there's not a quarterback that's running away with this award right now. And Todd, I think you're right. What CJ Stroud has done recently, it's like, that's probably your MVP right now, especially taking a 2-win team, 3-win team last year, and they already have 4 or 5 wins this season. He already has those game-winning drives.
Yep.
Well, Russell Wilson has more game-winning drives than CJ Stroud. So I don't think it sounds crazy on the surface, especially just with where Russ is, where people view Russ. But I don't think it's as crazy as people think. But obviously, this team has to be closer to the 3-0 team they were the past 3 weeks. If they finish as a middling team, not going to happen. But if they go out, especially, how did Russ play on primetime this past week?
Really good.
Really good. And he had a stat that's going around that he had the most improbable completion.
Yep.
And it went viral. That helps case a tiny bit. He's got another primetime game this week against a Vikings defense that is very beatable. You go out and do that, people nationally might be talking about it a little bit.
And that's what I feel. I feel like his stats are pretty good, but I think when you watch the game, it feels very different than him going out there and just throwing 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like, it wasn't until last week that we really felt like, oh, he's making plays that helped the Broncos win.
Yeah.
Before that, he was just, like you said, a game manager, but it resulted in him getting good amount of touchdowns, not really throwing interceptions, being careful with the ball. But it didn't look like he was the man of the hour and this is the Rush show and he's making things happen. It didn't feel like that. It was Javonte carrying the rock. It was other things going right for them. I think when you're the MVP, all eyes are on you, and you're making plays, spectacular plays all day. Now, if he can continue to do what he did on Monday night, those are miraculous, spectacular plays that will really have him in the MVP conversation.
Yeah. Even just looking through here, like, honestly, Sam Howell probably has a better case for MVP than Russ does. Like, when you look through all these numbers, like, Russ is sitting there at, like...
He's leading the league in passing yards? Sam
Yeah,
Howell?
he's first in passing yards. Like I said, like, I've got Russ. Like, if you look at the
He's
stats,
third in interceptions.
Yeah.
Sam Howell.
But
in
I
terms
wonder
of
what the
most
fumbles look like.
interceptions.
but 17 touchdowns, like, completing
Russ
2/3
has
of his
18.
passes, leading the league in passing yards. Like
Russ
it's
has all of that,
close.
but the passing yards.
I know,
Russ
but
is
we're
better
talking,
than all
like-
of that in the passing yards.
But it's tough to, like, make the case that he's potentially in the MVP conversation when you can also have the discussion that, like, him or Sam Howell, who would you rather have to this point? Like, that's just there's just such a gap. Like, right now, Russ is sitting there probably like the 12th to 15th best quarterback, I'd say, on stats this year, if you include the NFC as well.
What are you talking about?
What? I mean, what?
You want to
right?
go through the NFL? 10th in completion percentage,
Yeah.
23rd in passing yards, 19th in QBR. No.
Yeah.
The rest, top 5. Third most passing touchdowns. This is the entire NFL. First in touchdown percentage. Third best in interception percentage. Second fewest interceptions. Fourth in passer rating. Tied for the most in fourth quarter comebacks, and tied for the second most in game-winning drives.
Yeah, I mean, there's stats that help, there's stats that don't, but I think when you average it all out, like, you also have the five fumbles in there. You have the sacks in there.
Sam Howell 4 fumbles.
Yeah,
so
you have-
Sam Howell significally more turnovers than Russ.
You have the sacks in there too. I mean, there's just
And when you think of an MVP, I think you're the most valuable player.
Exactly.
And when I think about what Russ is doing, he's doing a tremendous job this year. But I can think of 5 or 6 other quarterbacks that we could swap in that position and would have a good season.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could just send Russ to Kansas City or send Russ to Buffalo, say, hey, I need you to throw the ball 45 times, and it's all on you. Like, that's why I feel like he's not, quote unquote, the MVP right now.
And I do agree with you guys. I just don't think, I think most people think this and say, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he's not there yet.
Yeah.
But if he continues what he's kind of done, I still don't think he wins it because you guys did mention the yards. And is he the most valuable player? No, he's not right now. And he's not close. But I think he might get in the conversation. And that might be kind of his peak of this season, is getting in that conversation.
Yeah.
Speaking of conversations, let's bring on our guy, Brian Bald.
okay.
You got one more?
Yeah, just real quick. So the point was, though, like, I think he's like 12th to 15th, and that's just in quarterbacks. And that's when you bring in all these edge rushers who have big numbers. You bring in the receivers. And so, like, the odds say he's 28th in chances to be the MVP. I think that he's probably placed correctly right there.
Yeah, but it's got to be so hard for a quarterback not to win that award.
Unless, but because there's probably a quarterback who goes out there and puts up big numbers. When you're talking Russell Wilson or TJ Watt, like, it's just different.
And if you want to see this game, go check out our friends over at Game Time in person. It is going to be lit. Use that code DNVR over at Game Time to get $20 off. I think this is going to be such a cool game where Broncos country actually believes. They're going to show out. The weather's going to be nice enough. I think we're going to be talking about just 1,000 or 2,000 no-shows compared to like multiple games of 10,000 plus no-shows last year. This is going to be a hot ticket to get, so check our friends over at Game Time out. Use that code DNVR for $20 off. Plus, it's a night game. Check out our tailgate beforehand. So Game Time, use that code DNVR. And Todd, you're actually doing something really cool this week.
Yeah, I'm actually, a man of the people, giving back. And I'm giving away 2 tickets to this Vikings-Broncos game. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. I think somebody should go and experience it. I'm giving away 2 tickets to the DNVR tailgate and 2 Pat Surtain jerseys. So it's a 2. And I think you should really enjoy it. And I think the link is in our bio. We're going to post a video on Instagram and Twitter today so you can sign up and be eligible to win these tickets, man. I think it'll be a fun day for you guys.
Also, it almost makes you you're going to be partners with Back and Shaker eventually.
Yep.
Wow.
You can go in that way.
I love it.
That reminds me that our friends over at Sportsfan, have crazy deals right now. So they've got just like the normal Russell Wilson jersey is like $50. They've got like the $200 versions, which is like, not everything is sewn on, but most of it is like they're awesome. Those are also half off. So if you want like a Justin Simmons Pat Surtain jersey, it's $100 for one of those, when typically like the low end is like $130 or whatever. They also have like the field edition. So like what they actually wear, like the sleeves are like tight and cut off or whatever. Instead of $350, they've got Russell Wilson ones at $100.
Boom.
It's ridiculous.
And check out our friends over at Shady Rays. Use the code DNVR to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Over 250,000 people have given them 5-star reviews. We've given them 5-star reviews. And if you want sunglasses, it's awesome for that. But also ski season's coming up, and you got to get some goggles for that. Shady Rays has them as well. Really cool designs. And Shady Rays also very affordable. So use that code DNVR over at shadyrays.com for 50% off. All right, let's bring our guy in, Brian Baldinger. Baldy, who knows the NFL like no one else. Baldy, we were just talking about Russell Wilson and just kind of the bounce back year he's having. Do you think he's back to Seattle Russell Wilson now?
Well, that touchdown throw to Cortland Sutton certainly looked like it. It looked like he was throwing one to Tyler Lockett on a Monday night or Thursday night under the hot lights of national TV. That's about as Russell Wilson like as you can get. I think he's every bit as back. I mean, he's not making mistakes right now. Sean Payton's calling a good game, kind of, emphasizing the run and balancing things up a great deal. But just as the street ball stuff that he had to do on third downs and just getting the ball out of his hands and finding, a safety net on some of those plays to get first downs or get positive yards. He's doing a good job with it. And so I would say he's back certainly circa 2020, 2019.
There we go. You'll love to hear that.
Back, baby.
The other part of our conversation, I'm curious your thoughts. what are the odds, like percentage-wise, that he is one of the, not just like makes the Pro Bowl, but is one of like the 3 AFC quarterbacks who gets voted in initially the Pro Bowl? And this is kind of like a tougher one. MVP, percentage-wise on MVP Russell Wilson for this season.
Well, this thing, that whole contest changes week to week. I mean, last week at this time, you might have said Lamar's the MVP, and you wouldn't have been wrong. And then he has the game that he had against Cleveland. He didn't look like the MVP. The typical players at that position, whether it's Mahomes or Josh or even Herbert or Lamar, I mean, you might think Tua, Stroud, Russell. Like, they might be the 3 Pro Bowl quarterbacks where they're at right now. I mean, if you just look at the numbers and you just look at them, as far as QBR and touchdowns, interceptions, winnings right now, the way, Denver's turning things around, you might say Tua, Stroud, Russell are 3, AFC Pro Bowl quarterbacks.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about this Denver Broncos team, and you mentioned that they were a shark with no teeth, or something that you wouldn't be afraid to swim with. After beating the Chiefs and beating the Bills, what kind of shark are we now? Did we grow some teeth? Are we looking like we could really bite?
Yeah, I don't think you're a great white shark. And I don't think you're necessarily like a black tip shark. Like, I don't think any of those. But I think you're like in the lemon shark, bull shark territory. Like, there's fear. There's fear in the water. You might not like swim a mile to get out of the water to get away from it. But your heart is beating a whole lot faster. I think last time we talked, it was like a nurse shark. Like, you go up there and pet those. But like, I think there's lemon sharks circling in the water. Whether it's Baron Browning or Zach Allen. I mean, you just pick a guy that looks like, they're Jared Cooper. They look like they've got a lot more teeth right now.
Man, Baldy, I trust your opinion on sharks, everything in the water, and I also trust your opinion more than anyone on offensive line play. And Quinn Minor seems to be really taking that next step in his game. Is he establishing himself, speaking of Pro Bowls, as a Pro Bowl level type of guard?
Well, if you just watch the way he threw guys around the other night, he like, nobody gets that attention until you start winning games. Unfortunately, that's why I try to bring some attention to him this week. But, they ran a quarterback sneak behind him, and he lifted, the nose tackle of the Buffalo Bills, just took him right off the curb and took him back 4 yards. The nose tackle was so frustrated he threw his helmet off. But Quinn is he's a powerful, powerful guy. And you're starting to see the backs right now, Javonte, like they're coming, when they start, no matter where every run starts, if those runs start coming behind you, they know who's moving the line of scrimmage. And Quinn is playing really good football right now. He's a powerful guy. He's using his strength well, and he probably deserves more attention. I can't wait to watch him, this week against Minnesota, because they got some good interior defensive linemen there in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, going back and watching games, I think Quinn might be the top of the list of guys that you want to see. I mean, he had pancakes on both of the first 2 drives. Like, it's just every series he's doing something that kind of blows your mind. On top of that, he hasn't given up a sack yet this season. And that was kind of the weak part of his game, only played in a 3-point stance in college. Now, all of a sudden, he's not giving up sacks either. It's pretty ridiculous to see.
Yeah, no, it's development. And, he's basically Thor in a football uniform,
Yes.
And so, like, he's just, like, he has Neanderthal ways. It's a perfect game for people that are built like that and are created like that. It's if this was the Roman Coliseum, like, you just put him out there against the Lions. I'd take my chances with Quinn. So no, but he's playing good football. Like, they brought in Ben on the other side, and Cushenberry's been quasi up and down. McGlinchey's had his penalties, but I think Quinn's been the most solid player they've had up there all year. And now that they're starting to win games, and you see that the way that they're winning games, he should only get more and more attention.
We talked about the offense. I want to break it over to the defensive side of the ball. And this defense is really playing lights out. They've got 4 turnovers in the past 2 games. We've talked a little bit on this show. Is that something we can sustain? And if we don't, how does our team look not be able to have 4 turnovers? Because I don't know if the offense is there enough to really account for, not getting the ball back.
Well, I mean, Jaquan takes the ball right out of James Cook's on the first play, just rips it right out of his hands. I mean, he's been an unbelievable player. Fabian Moreau has been unbelievable since he's been inserted. There's certain these, new guys or young guys, and they seem to have a knack for it. So, and then if you, anytime that you're pressuring the quarterback, I don't care who it is, you have a chance of getting takeaways. And so I think I've got 10 in this 3-game win streak. Maybe it's the last 4 games going back to the first Kansas City game. But regardless, like they're taking it away, and they're giving extra bats to the offense right now and giving them field position. Sean McDermott was bitching about it, on Monday. Like he basically gave him a 3-0 start to, to start the game after that Jaquan takeaway. So the mentality is there right now. Justin Simmons wants to be the benefactor of a guy dropping a ball. He's in the right position. So you can't just say, well, we got to keep doing this because those takeaways sometimes they come in bunches, sometimes there's a drought, but the mentality of taking it away, the expectation of taking it away, seems like it's there. And then I think Vance is doing a good job of mixing up his pressures, which can force the ball to come out funny or hot or tipped or whatever else.
Baldy, the Broncos are the second hottest team in the NFL on the 3-game win streak, tied with the Eagles. They're playing the hottest team in the NFL this week with the Vikings. You watch every single team, so you know about Josh Dobbs back with Arizona. Now you know about him with the Vikings, and you know all about the Vikings. What's the Broncos' key to beating the Vikings this week?
Well, even before Josh got traded to Minnesota, like he started 8 games for Arizona. If you watch Arizona, and I know a lot of people don't, but like he had them in, they were in every game. They didn't get blown. They beat Dallas, but they were in every game, even in the 6-game losing streak that they had. But they just couldn't find a way to finish and make plays in the fourth quarter. What you then discover after watching Josh for 10 games is he is a true dual threat quarterback. They call runs for him. He's excellent. Like he's not Lamar, but whatever that next category of dual threat quarterbacks are, like he's right in that category. And then his ability to scramble and to buy time and to extend plays. The throws that he had to Hawkinson last week were outstanding. He's throwing the ball with touch and accuracy and extending plays. Like he's been a handful. It's an amazing story, knowing that you didn't even know the guy's name, Ben Powell or Brandon Powell, didn't even know the names of these guys. But you have to play with that guy with the utmost respect, because if you give him 50 seconds on the clock and the length of the field to go, he's already shown that he can do that.
I love it. I love it.
Definitely. Other thing, going back and looking at that game, is Pat Surtain playing Stephon Diggs. It was, again, just remarkable to see what he was doing. Like, you take the Alex Singleton almost interception, for example. On the backside of that play, Stephon Diggs is trying to run a slant. He can't even get off the line of scrimmage. And it was like that all night. So I'm curious, going into this week with Justin Jefferson, I asked Pat last week if I should be playing Justin Jefferson on my fantasy team, and he said I should not this week. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on that matchup and how you see that going.
Well, I know Patrick, likes that challenge, and he likes to punk guys at the line of scrimmage from time to time. You can play any style of football. Jordan Addison has been Justin Jefferson since Jefferson went out with that hamstring injury. I don't know that I would go that far away. Addison has been unbelievable. Now, Justin Jefferson is a great route runner. He has 2 plans. He has a plan to get open, and he has a plan after the catch. And, look, Surtain knows that. So, if he catches the ball, you better tackle it, because that guy's looking to square you up and beat you. So that's the big thing about Jefferson is you have to tackle the catch. He's going to get catches because he's that good of a route runner. But we got to see what the timing is like with Josh Dobbs. We knew the timing with Kirk Cousins was outstanding. But you never know with a new guy if he's going to stay on you as long, if he sees you the way Kirk Cousins saw you. Like, that remains to be established yet. We don't know. We know that he's got uncanny timing with T.J. Hawkinson. And so does he get off Hawkinson and the success he's having thrown to him to go feed the beast? I don't know how that's going to work out right now.
Man, I love it. I know how this interview worked out. It was great. Baldy, thank you so much for your insight. We absolutely love it, and I just can't wait to check out your Twitter account on Monday to see how this Broncos game breaks down.
Well, if it's win number 4 there's definitely going to be a lot of breakdowns for sure.
I love it. Make sure to check out Baldy's national podcast with us, the All NFL Show. Baldy, thank you so much.
My pleasure, guys. Talk to you next week.
Man, I love it, and I don't feel crazy, guys. Russ or Pro Bowl conversation with not even conversation, Pro Bowler with Tua and C.J. Stroud. Wouldn't that be crazy?
You texted him before he came in.
It'd be crazy.
Wouldn't that be crazy on the initial Pro Bowl roster? If Herbert's not there, if Mahomes isn't there, I know that obviously Tom Brady's not going to be there, but like he was just there for 20 years on the AFC ballot.
Yep.
If these guys aren't there, that would be wild.
It sure would be.
It would be.
Oh, but yeah, there's no chance.
Oh, well,
There's
if you,
no chance.
if you think there's a chance, go over to DraftKings Sportsbook, place a little bet, and if you're like, well, I don't just want to waste my money throwing Russell Wilson MVP on that, do it with some bonus bets. If you place a
$300 to
$5
1.
bet, 300 to 1.
Yeah.
So they give you bonus bets of they give you $200 in bonus bets. If you place a $5 bet, you get 8 $25 bonus bets. What would if you place a $25 bet? What would your payout be? $650.
Yeah, so you wind up 7,500. You do the whole thing though, and you get 60 grand. Yeah. So if you really think that Russ is about to go on a run,
Oh my!
play the best ball of his career.
Oh
It's so
my
good that it
goodness.
compensates for the first half. Yeah, there you go.
And on
Dang.
one hand, like you don't think people would want to vote for Russ as an MVP just with like how brutal they've been to him this past year. But on another hand, people want a story in the NFL. Russ going from "Let's ride Russ" to "Let's win the MVP Russ." Oh man, that'd be wild. So you can do that with our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code DNVR when you sign up in order to get these bonus bets. It's wild, especially after a Monday night game. We got football tomorrow night with the NFL, and that is a hell of a game. So get in on the action over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code DNVR when you sign up to get this offer. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Henry, how many days is that?
7.
Boom. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
And check out our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery, breckbrew.com for their beer locator, the official beer of the DNVR, and we love it here. We have it almost every game. When I'm here, I have it not every day, but almost every day because it's that good. They have so many different ones that they would like for you to try. The Avalanche Amber Ale, the Mile High City, the Broncos Pale Ale, which we have on set with us like always, the Fun Slinger, the Good Company Hard Seltzer, which I heard is very popular. Not really a hard seltzer guy, but for them, I would give it a try. So go check out our friends at Breck Brew using breckbrew.com for their beer locator.
You know what? Let's dish out our DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week right now. And I'm going to tomorrow night's game. Okay, I'm not going to tomorrow night's game, but I'm picking tomorrow night's game.
Okay.
Cincinnati Bengals playing the Baltimore Ravens, two teams with just abysmal meltdowns in their past game, division game, and the Bengals are getting 4 points. I love that. I
Interesting.
think the Bengals will just win straight up, but I love them. It went from 3 to 3.5 to 4. The Bengals, just melted down against C.J. Stroud, but he's doing that to every team right now. Recently, the Bengals are hot, though, before that game. I love getting 4 points with the Bengals. Henry, where are you going?
I'll go. It's tough. So let's see. We've got 7 to 1 on the Buffs to win the Pac-12. Got 80 to 1 on them to win the national championship.
It's still pot. Oh, you're talking about basketball?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to
Yeah.
say football? Seriously?
Yeah, I know. It's like 35 to 1 for Russ to win comeback player of the year and 75 to 1 for Sean Payton coach of the year.
It's, 7 to 1?
For Russ, 35.
No, for Sean.
75.
75 to 1?
I know, and that's where if they go on a run. But they D'Amico Ryans is up there. Like
Yeah.
Dan
Is he the
Campbell's up
favorite?
there. Dan Campbell's the favorite.
Okay.
But I think you can surpass him. Like they have to win like 12 games this year for him to be in the conversation.
Dan?
I think so.
I don't think so.
You don't?
These
'Cause what,
awards.
they
these-
won 8 or 9
especially
last year?
Yeah, but especially for Coach of the Year, it's like, okay, do it 2 years in a row, and then we'll give it to you.
Okay. Let's see. Give me the 81 on the Buffs win national championship. They just look ridiculous right now. Last night, like they got the number 1 recruit in the country. He's just going out there and like dunking on guys. Like it's everything they do is work. Like they've got the talent, they've got the experience. I gotta at least sprinkle that one. 80-1.
I think that the Broncos have been playing some good football, but it hasn't resulted in a lot of points. So I think they're due for a game for them to go out there and really light up the scoreboard. So right now at DraftKings, it's plus 230 to get over 27.5 points. Ooh. So I think this will be the game that Broncos break even the 30-point mark, and that's plus 350. So yeah, go over there and bet either for over 27.5 or over 30 points, and I think you'll be happy with it.
Man, I love that, and I have a different feel on this game than the national people. Over at DraftKings, 75% of the bets are on the Vikings, only 25 for the Broncos.
Still.
I saw a national panel, 7 of them picked the Vikings to win. 1 picked the Broncos. I almost just gave that out as my pick of the week. Broncos minus, I think, 125 to win this game. We're going to give our picks tomorrow, but let's dive into a little casual Whiteboard Wednesday to break down how this game is going to go. And I'll start off here. I'm going Pastronaut.
Okay.
You know who the Pastronaut is?
Astronaut Pastertan?
That's a good one. You could also go with Bradley Chubb, since he's the astronaut.
Yeah.
But according to Pro Football Reference, which has some dicey nicknames, the Pastronaut is Josh Dobbs.
That's a real one.
That's a real one.
Yep.
Because he is a aerospace engineer or something like
that's
that,
what they say,
and he passes the ball. Well, make sure he's a Pastronaut this game, not a Runstronaut, because as Baldy said, Josh Dobbs is a legitimate dual threat quarterback. In fact, he's the first quarterback to have 400 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, and no interceptions in his first 2 games with the team. Just shows how good he's been, but he has really hurt teams with his ability to run the ball when he's been with the Vikings. He has 110 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns on 15 carries. The Vikings can't run the ball outside of him. So force him to beat you in the pocket by throwing the ball. We know the Broncos are a much better pass defense than run defense. So keep him in the pocket. As much as Baron Browning, Nick Bonito want to pin their ears back and go and sack him, it's okay if you're not getting tons of sacks as long as he's not breaking those long runs. So keep Josh Dobbs in the pocket. Make him beat you with his arm.
This is a game where we definitely need a QB spy. Josie or Alex sitting over the ball and just not letting him kill us with his legs, because I think that's where he really makes his bread, is being able to use his legs to extend plays.
Do you like being a spy? Did you like being a spy?
I do. Yeah. I think it's not as easy as people think.
Oh,
because
it does seem easy, but
because those guys can evade any way. And so let's just say he rolls out the pocket to the right. The minute you take off and he reverts, now there's nobody back on that side, and it's 100% your fault because you're trying to spy him. But you were 2 yards from the tackle, but now he's just running for the end zone. So it's a tough down.
It's okay to spy Peyton or Tom, but when it's fast guy, maybe not.
When it was Peyton or Tom, it would be like a D lineman. You know how sometimes a D lineman they'll just stop and sit there. That's when you spy those two guys. For me, I'm going with once is a mistake, twice is a pattern, 3 times is a habit, and that's for these turnovers that the Broncos have been creating. The defense has had 4 turnovers in back-to-back games, and if we do it one more time, I think that's just who we are, and I'm just going to be banking on us to get that every single game that we play. I know it's been tremendous in helping Russ and field position, so I need this to turn into a habit for the Denver Broncos. I need us to get 4 turnovers this next game.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, it's Thanksgiving next week, so you might want to do some preparing, bake some things beforehand. So you might as well cook the turnovers, bake the turnovers this Sunday. Because, Todd, I'm going to play right into you. You mentioned how important it is for the Broncos and how good they've been. But in the Vikings' 6 wins, they've turned the ball over 7 times. That's just over 1 per game. They took the ball away 12 times. So they've averaged over 2 turnovers per game. They've won the turnover battle by 5 in their wins. In their losses, though, they've turned the ball over 10 times. 4 losses, 10 turnovers. That's 2.5 turnovers a game, and they've only taken the ball over 2 times in their 6 wins. Half a turnover per game. So they've lost the turnover battle by 8, which is an average of 2 per loss. Huge difference there. So it's that important for the Broncos, and it's that important for the Vikings. Sometimes, for most teams, for every team, the turnover battle is important. But for other teams that they can overcome losing the turnover battle, these 2 teams clearly can't.
No. It's like the number one indicator for win-loss percentage,
Yep.
whether you won or lost the turnover battle. Like
Yep.
it 100% correlates to team success. So I think Broncos, it is our success. Like we have to take the ball away.
Definitely. I just let them run. That's mine.
Let the Broncos run? Or
No, the Vikings. Let them run the football. Don't be loading the box. Don't do anything. Like, that rushing offense is terrible. They've got basically nothing going. They're 29th in yards, 27th yards per attempt. Passing offense, very different story. Like, it's tough because I don't even know how you defend that passing game because they're insane. Like, part of me thinks, like, put Pat on Jordan Addison, bracket Justin Jefferson. Part of me thinks, well, how can you do that when you're just leaving Hawkinson in the middle of the field then? Because Hawkinson looks like Travis Kelce this season, and all the numbers back that up. Like, he is one of those uncoverable tight ends who's finds space, can get deep, can just do anything. Like Baldy said, Addison has totally taken over the Justin Jefferson role. So, like, you're stuck. Luckily, you have Pat Surtain to solve one problem, but that's leaving two problems. And you can't really dedicate a double team to one of them because then you're leaving somebody else open. You want to have a spy because of Josh Dobbs, but there goes another defender. So maybe you like spy and have him kind of keep an eye on Hawkinson Mill. I don't know. All I know is don't overload the box trying to stop the run because they will stop their own running game. This passing attack is terrifying regardless of who the quarterback is.
That's tough. I don't know.
Yeah?
No.
Because I feel
Really?
like the running game, there's no way, once you open the jar, there's no way to put a lid on it.
Okay.
Like once you have a light box, it's one tackle away from that running back hitting his head on the goalpost, and now they're having a career day, and they just went from like bottom of the pack to top of the pack. I think it's that easy to turn around your running game in one game. So I think we need to stop the run first and make them pass because I think our pass defense is better actually than our run defense, and they're a bad running team. We've actually been a bad running defense, so we got to be able to come and stop the run.
Henry, I see what you're saying,
Yep.
but if you allow a team to be two-dimensional, that is so tough. And I trust the Broncos' pass defense way more than I trust their run defense. And I just go back to last week with Josh Allen. The Bills don't even try to run the ball until they go against the Broncos, and they have almost 200 rushing yards. When they threw the ball, it was interception, fumble.
Yep.
They were just making all sorts of mistakes against Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. They shut them down. So I don't think you're going to hold Josh Dobbs to like 95 passing yards. But if they're running for 200 yards, that means the air game's going to be
It's
a lot
over.
more open too. So I really, really hesitate against that. But you do mention the passing options they have.
Yeah.
TJ Hawkinson, I was blown away, and I had to triple check this stat yesterday. He has the most receiving yards for a tight end, the most receptions for a tight end in the entire NFL, and what blew me away, 71 catches this year. We're through 9 games. He has 71 catches, third most in the NFL for any position, only behind like Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
It's insane how good he has been.
Yeah. Well, only pushback. They have 3 100-yard games and 100-yard rushing games in 10 games this season.
That's 3 more than the Oh, you mean as a team?
As a team.
Okay,
As a team.
Yeah.
They've hit 75 yards 4 times. Like, they are terrible.
Yeah.
They are terrible. All they can do is throw the football.
Yeah. Just don't make them. Just don't let them be two-dimensional. Okay, we got to get out of here quick, but we've got some super chats, I believe, so let's hit those really quick. We got one from Kevin Locke. Says, seems in the last 2 games, opposing defenses have pointed to the side where the run is going to go and say, run to the right before the play. Have you noticed that, Todd?
I haven't. But maybe they're using like keywords.
Yeah.
Like true and false. Like true is the right run, false is the left run.
Yeah.
Or have they hired the Michigan guy? Because he's been
It's possible.
unemployed for about 2 weeks
It's possible.
now. Maybe they know the signs. Nick says, Todd, what can we do to fix the run defense in the next couple of weeks?
Play the
Guys just got
Vikings.
to tackle. I think that that guys are in good position, but if you look, guys are missing tackles like at the point of attack. And so, they do a great job of tackling in the open field against route runners, but we just got to bring it to the box. And those interior guys have to do a great job tackling runners before they really get started.
Do you guys like Black Friday?
Yep.
We've got our Black Friday deal already going. We've got shirts up to 90% off, team gear at least 20% off, DNVR gear 33% off, hats and hoodies $10 off. If you spend $75 or more, you're going to receive a $15 gift card and much more. There's some restrictions apply, but check out the DNVR locker to get in on all the Black Friday stuff. You see just a little sampling of what we've got. Check out our Pat Surtain shirt, and also get in on this on our Splash Sports Pick'em contest. We've got
Yes.
that going. Link in the description. Us three, we're all signed up already. I made my picks last night, and we want to play with you. We've already got some people in there, so let's grow this pot and get in there over at splashsports.com. Click the link in the description to see all of that, and we'll see you tomorrow for
Let's do
our
it.
final picks. Curious if Henry is going to be a hater. I'm curious if Todd is going to roll back with the Broncos or if he goes with his most recent former team, the Vikings. We will give you our final picks tomorrow on the show. Thank you all so much for rolling with us. Hit us with a thumbs up on the way out.
We all silly like the mayor.